Hey everyone, Robert here from Win-Win Host Incorporated. It's basically a continuation video of the last one in terms of looking at Orchid. So I wanted to go ahead and give a breakdown of the environment directory. So this is just a quick walkthrough of how it works. I haven't executed it yet, but I took a peek before I made this video. So just a quick rundown is, for Docker, we saw that scripts are called, such as setup Docker, right? And I wanted to go ahead and explore that because I wanted to go ahead and run the server. So I started to look at these various scripts, and actually if you run setup, everything kind of happens for you right away. So setup basically says run your environment. So if you've got a Mac, it'll pick up Darwin, and if you've got anything else, it'll pick up Linux. So what's going to happen is you're going to run setup Linux. So that's the main difference between setup Docker or setup anything, right? Is basically this prefix here. And so in setup Linux, you'll see the dependencies that are required in order to compile and install the software. And you'll see that it'll go ahead and it assumes Debian for Linux, and it'll go ahead and start to install Automake, Bison, CPIO, Flex, GetText. There's a bunch of other. Probably should have installed a Docker extension. So Python 3, so Vim, Common, so it's just Ninja build. That's interesting. I'll probably take a look at that. Not every time you see Ninja in Linux tools, it's more like a JavaScript thing, NPM. But here we go. We got an apt-get package, Ninja build. So CLang, libc++ 9. So we're using version 9 of CLang. I guess you could try in G++9, see what happens, but they're using CLang here. So, and then Ubuntu Bionic ships Meson 0.45, which is too old to build glib. So there's some code here to break out of it or something. Yeah. So install a new Meson, and then it does install all. Let's see what that does. I haven't seen this yet. Right, so cargo bin roostup update. Well, I haven't seen that one at all. So setup git just bypasses these particular secured endpoints on a Savannah. And I haven't checked out Savannah yet either, but there's that's interesting. Setup Mac, it's using brew instead of apt-get, and it's installing autoconf, automake. So this thing will run on a Mac OS, Darwin. It should. It looks like from what we're looking at, and it should also run on Linux. I don't see Windows yet. There is a target Windows here, so I guess you could still make for Windows, although I'm not sure how that would look like yet. I'm still just exploring how to set everything up. And then the other interesting setup script here that we saw was SubModule. Remember the Docker file. Docker setup. Actually, it was the Docker file. So remember the Docker file had, so let's minimize this. There's Win32. So there is a Win32 environment. And it looks like it has headers for Windows socket programming. So that's probably all done with pre-processing statements, if defined, if not defined, things of that nature. Of course, exploring this folder has marked my project red. So I wanted to go ahead and, yeah, the Docker file, open that up, and just highlight the submodule invocation here, which will run the submodule script. And this just basically has a couple of submodules like Wireshark, Flutter. So within Wireshark, there's GNU libite. So this goes ahead and sets up those submodules because they have a custom system. So the first thing is basically the submodules for Git are set up. Then the Docker command is run to install some keys and things of that nature. So here's the keys. There's sealing again. Then there's the setup Linux. So it does more. I think basically this is assuming a fresh system because it's Docker. So it's getting the very basic, you know, clang, curl, git core, software properties comment, sudo, like the very basic tools that are required for on a clean system. Although, quite honestly, their base image is Bionic, so I'm not sure if it's like a bare bones Bionic or not. I haven't looked at their base yet. The interesting stuff is here. Like, what is this? Restup.rs. That's weird, don't you think? Let's see what Puma looks like anyway. This must be the Rust programming language. It's a bash script to install Rust. And we can verify that very simply by taking out the sh, and we see that indeed, yeah. Okay. So to recap, you should be good with just setup, which will go ahead and run setup Linux, and it'll skip Docker, which installs Android SDK. So, you know, setup Linux might be assuming that you have these values and these particular dependencies. Like, as you can see, they're using Zulu 8 Azure JDK. I'm not sure if there's a hard requirement on that for the Android Studio that they're going with here. But ultimately, Linux setup is these build tools to compile. So I don't know about you, but I want to execute these. I want to see what happens. So I'm getting some stuff updated and installed, and so that's good. Specifically, the text that we have is some things are no longer required. We should remove them. The final additional packages will be installed as dependencies. Bison suggested packages and the following packages will be removed. Python 2 is going away. I don't know why. I want Python 2. And then all this Ninja stuff. Okay, so we're good. So that happened. Now let's make sure we have clang. Oops. Question is, does anything else happen? Yes, and let's set up all. And set up all is this rust up. And where did we see rust before that? In Docker. So there is an assumption. So we can confirm that there's definitely an assumption on rust up. Whoop! Sorry. And rust up being there. So you probably want to do include this Docker step for yourself, or maybe something similar to that in order to get Rust. And I think the website we were looking at here has the exact command. And this is, I think I'm going to use this one. It just feels more simplified. Feels easier because this one's got some the profile minimal I don't like. That's really the only difference. So it would have been fine. It's actually just a little more. Proceed with installation. That's correct. So we've identified that you need Rust. You need also clang 9 and some other dependencies. I don't think I'm missing anything with the word setup here, so I just pretty much looked at all of those. There's some other interesting ones. Autogen. This is interesting. Okay. A bit of recursion there, so it wants to end up wait. Alright, well, we're not going to try to solve everything. So this one basically runs Docker. It doesn't compile it, so this one will give you a working environment. So Bootstrap, if you execute Bootstrap, you have Docker on your system, you execute bootstrap.sh, you'll be able to, it'll clean out the previous one, the image that it registers in your Docker engine, and then it'll go ahead and create a new one, and the current working directory that you're in is going to be mounted in mount, so /mnt. So you're going to get an Ubuntu Bionic, and it's then going to go ahead and execute the setup Docker. So this basically runs Docker, starts up, and it gives it the name, environment, and name, which is Orchid, and then it'll go ahead and the current working directory will be attached to this mount point, which is the code base, because here you are, and in that current working, then it'll go ahead and execute setup Docker, and as we saw, setup Docker will install the basic dependencies, add keys for Java, Android SDK, and Rust will be installed as well. And then after that, it'll continue with the Linux setup, and the Linux setup will be more specific on the actual dependencies, and then assumes the VM, and it will go ahead and move on to all, and all will finish with a Rust command. Isn't this fun? So much fun. So I think Bootstrap is a good way to go. I want to see what happens. I forgot how to read. Oh, it's in an environment. Then so I think you're meant to execute of environment folder, looking at the logic in here. So from here, you're meant to do something like environment bootstrap. There it goes. Make this image many times over again. There's definitely a lot of benefit to mastering the Docker, aspect of it, but I'm also interested in getting it to run on bare metal. So this is kind of a lengthy process, right? And so it's like, okay, if I fuck something up, excuse my language, shoot. So if I mess something up, like I probably have to make another image. And the way Bootstrap is working, it destroys your previous image anyway. So every time you run Bootstrap, you're going to have to sit and wait through this. So when I was setting up the image, okay, so here we are seeing the need for Android SDK. Don't like the warning, but it's only a warning. Now, I think I actually have the Android SDK already installed. That's a negatory. So let's take a look at the code that's doing the Android SDK install, and that would be inside of the Docker. And what we're seeing is it's grabbing a certain version of the SDK tools from the Android repository, and it's putting it in user local lib. Actually, user local lib. Okay, so my bad. That was not even, okay, cd user local lib. Okay, I'm pretty bare. I'm pretty sure I installed the Android SDK. Now what would happen if I used apt-get? I'm sure that's a bad idea, obviously. Not sure what's going on with this, and if it means we have Android or not. Hey, look at that. Stable, unknown Linux, GNU, unchanged, Rust C, successfully installed Meson. So this has now given me a Docker image where everything is set up. I can go in there and I can compile now if I want to. So I should be able, if memory serves me, go ahead and connect the shell to this, Docker image, run it, connect the shell, and I think it's actually already running. Right, I forgot Docker. Alright, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to call it a finish for now, because what we've got is we've got the whole entire setup, repository environment set up and figured out. And now we're just kind of like in a knowledge gap in terms of Docker and Android SDK requirements. So I want to look at those for bare metal, the Android and the Java. So I do want to review these particular dependencies that are kind of custom installed. So and I do want to circle back after beefing up my Docker knowledge, so I don't look silly like I did with this command here, to see what's running and things like that. And I might even install Portainer on this laptop. It's been a while since I had to do Docker. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you're interested in Orchid OXT coin. I know I am. It's pretty painless so far to get everything set up. The real thing is when I execute the software, when I compile it and run it, what will be the setup steps? That's what I'm interested in getting, is to actually see like what kind of questions is it going to ask me. It's going to ask me if I have a wallet address, I have to deposit coins, if it has to sync the blockchain, all of these other events that need to occur in order for you to actually have a running node and be staking and providing on the internet. Thanks for watching. I'll have more. Stay tuned. Again.